Really good news for Aave. We're going to talk about that and a bunch of other things too. An interesting integration involving Ondo, Chainlink, and Ethereum. We'll also talk about what's going on in France with these kidnappings, where there was an attempt kidnapping involving the head of BINANCE France. So yeah. We'll also talk about what's new inside the Ethereum Foundation, a change in leadership. And we'll end the video on a more optimistic subject. Hello everyone and welcome to Crypto Red, the crypto news channel. Let's start with the news. The news about kidnapping in France. There was an attempted kidnapping of the boss of Binance France. Thankfully, it didn't work. 3 masked guys basically broke into his place, actually in 2 different homes. They went to the wrong one the first time. They went to second one. They didn't manage to do it. They took some phones, some stuff, but they didn't succeed. Kidnapped. I don't often talk about this kind of things because I found it anxiety inducing. It's really sad, obviously, and honestly what's happening in France on that front is catastrophic. I don't know how it can change, but I generally don't have a solution for this. It's happening a lot in France, but in other countries also. So yeah, be careful if you're in cryptocurrencies. Try to not show your face. If you create content, for example, that's what I do. So yeah. Let's talk now about Aave. Over the last few weeks, I've talked a lot about the drama between Aave Labs and Aave DAO. And now basically after the massive pressure they've been under, Aave Labs, and also after the Aave price dropped a lot recently, we went from a market cap of almost $5 billion to around $1.8 billion now. Part of that drop is because of this whole situation. Aave Lab has just put forward a proposal, and this proposal addresses almost all points that were causing problems in the first place. Here's what they're proposing. First, Aave Labs is proposing to redirect all revenues generated by Aave products to the decentralized autonomous organization, meaning all fees, everything that can be generated through the Aave brand, the Aave app, literally everything. And that's a very good thing because that's exactly what people were asking for. They're also proposing something interesting, the creation of a foundation that would hold the intellectual property of the Aave brand. You should be able to see it. Yeah, foundation. That's really good too because it's necessary. Right now, Aave Labs basically controls all of that. They own it, they manage it, they control it. Now, Aave Labs is also saying they will still remain in charge operationally, meaning they'd get the delegation to make decisions and move things forward. But it will be the DAO that ultimately have the final word. In other words, the DAO will decide who gets delegated, who will do these things that the DAO wants it to do. And they also said, if we do that, Aave Labs, we're going to massively reduce our budget because we're going to have less income stream. And in exchange, Aave Labs ask for something quite crazy. They're asking for $50 million. More specifically, $25 million in stablecoins and 75,000 75,000 Aave token. And there are other things too, but yeah, the whole package is around $50 million. So basically, we are in a situation where Aave Labs is saying, okay, you want us to give all revenues to DAO, no problem, but then you're going to have to pay us. And you're going to have to pay us really well. And what's causing pushback, I saw some of the community reaction, is that Aave Labs, on top of asking for stablecoins, like I said, is asking for Aave tokens. And those tokens could later be used to vote on proposal, to request more budget, to push for more funding, more resource, more control. And what Mark Zeller pointed out is that Aave Labs has apparently already used its voting power to block certain proposals, including one related to conflicts of interest. So basically, Aave Labs already has enough voting weight to reject proposal, and if they have enough voting to block proposal, they probably have enough to pass some. And now we're talking about giving them even more Aave tokens. If you give them more tokens, they could have vote themselves even more budget every year. And that's where it starts to raise concern because little by little, that could drain the DAO, drain the treasury, drain the decentralized organization. That's where I think the issue is. I feel like after trying to extract as much value as possible in indirect ways, now it's becoming more explicit, it's becoming more clear. It's basically, give us money, give us Aave token, and I honestly think they wouldn't hesitate later to ask for even more tokens down the line. Now, to be fair, I'm not entirely sure what to think about it right now because the entire market is kind of up. Though it's difficult to say that it's because of this news that the Aave token is up. But clearly, the market doesn't see it as negative. I think in large parts, this goes in the direction of what the community wanted, especially around intellectual property. So overall, it's moving in the right direction. You just have to be careful about these additional Aave tokens and maybe about commitments from Aave Labs not to vote on proposal that directly benefit them financially. We have to have some kind of conflict of interest policy. It's still being discussed, it's evolving, but it's very interesting to watch a DAO like this operate in real time. There are proposal, counter-proposal, negotiations, and yeah, it's power struggle playing out. And that's something you absolutely need to analyze when you're investing in a token. It's important to integrate all that information. You need to understand how governance works, what the Aave token is actually used for, how buybacks works. Because yes, there are buybacks in Aave token. In many other tokens, all of this is opaque. Sometimes there isn't even governance, or governance is even more centralized than here. So really, you have to study these things carefully. Take your time, do your research. There are plenty of websites out there that give you some indication, like DeFi Llama, but it's worth it if you're going to invest some money in studying before investing. Now, let's talk about Ondo and an interesting integration involving tokenized stocks on Ethereum. Ondo just announced the integration of Chainlink oracles for 3 of their tokenized assets, including Tesla, the S&P 500, and another one. This is interesting because it now allows those tokenized stocks to be tokenized into DeFi, to be deposited into DeFi protocols. For example, they gave us here an example of integration with the Euler protocol. You can use them as collateral to borrow stablecoins thanks to Chainlink Oracle, providing reliable price feeds for those tokens. So this is actually very interesting. It's basically like a loan in traditional finance. When you have a large portfolio, you can use it as a collateral and borrow dollars against it. Here you get the equivalent on-chain with tokenized stocks. So yeah, I think it's a good thing that they just did. And yeah, let's hope other DeFi protocol integrate these kinds of loan. Finally, yeah, I have other news about the Ethereum Foundation. For the past year, it has been co-led by 2 people, Thomas Tanzak and Yashua Wang. She's the one on the right in the photo. And now Thomas, after not even a full year at the head of the foundation, has stepped down. The foundation just announced that he's stepping down from his role. There's no clear reason given why he's leaving. He said he's going to stay involved in Ethereum. He's still studying, still building, and still contributing to Ethereum, but also exploring things around AI, agents, governance, stuff like that. Basically, he's experimenting with AI. He's not leaving crypto at all, but yeah, a little bit seeing what he can do with AI also. In my opinion, there's probably been a lot of tension at the foundation, because I've rarely seen an organization with 2 leaders that really works well long term. Usually, sooner or later, it becomes a problem. We actually saw something similar recently in crypto with another huge project which has 2 leaders now. It's Binance. Binance moved to a 2-leader setup. You've got here Richard Tang and Yihi. But yeah, still I feel like in a company or really anywhere, it's better to have one clear boss rather than 2, because the 2 people sometimes are working on the same topic, so they end up having issues. And even if it's not exactly the same scope, there will be some friction. And to wrap up, let's talk about Optimism. Optimism, the L2, the Ethereum L2 had just announced a partnership with a company called Succinct. They're specialized in zero-knowledge tech, and the goal is to enable instant withdrawals directly from Optimism. Quick reminder, Optimism is in Ethereum L2, like I said. To withdraw, you have to wait 7 days because it's optimistic tech. That's literally why it's called Optimism, and it's basically the opposite approach from ZK rollups. Now what they're doing is bringing ZK rollup technology, integrating it into Optimism. That's exactly what was expected for a few years now, but it has not been done. Now it's announced, and it's really good news. The important thing is we're getting there little by little. We're going to stop having that 7-day waiting period, and that's a really good thing for the user experience. Overall, we've been seeing something lately since the Vitalik's post about rollups. And rollups are going through an existential crisis. Ever since, like I said, Vitalik's post about the idea that rollups aren't really necessary anymore, at least generic rollups, it's starting to create a real problem. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to be integrated more and more natively into Ethereum. There'll be some kind of native rollup on Ethereum, and then you'll have additional white label rollups on top of that handle certain things. But in the end, it's really the native Ethereum rollup, the native ZK EVM on Ethereum that's going to control most of it, and rollups are going to have a harder and harder time differentiating themselves. That's what I wanted to share with you today on the different crypto news items. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, don't hesitate to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you Monday for more. Bye-bye.